Hey, it's Aaron. I just realized after recording that entire video that it's like 57 minutes long, and I'm not uploading all of that and just boring the hell out of absolutely everyone. So I'm going to break this into a bunch of different parts, and yeah, so this is going to come to you in a several part series. There we go, and let's get started. Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm coming to you from outside in the midst of the apocalypse. I know that a lot of people aren't going outside a whole lot. Just to let you know, you can go outside just as long as you maintain social distancing. So I'm definitely doing that, and I'm definitely going to wash my hands when I get back inside. But I can't stay cooped up inside forever, and it happens to be a nice day, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information in this beautiful, nice day. And even though a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today are a little bit grim, at least we can look at the bright sunshine. That was a weird thing to say. The bright sunshine, and hopefully enjoy some of it. So with all that being said, there are a lot of things I have to get through to today. I'm going to start by talking about a lot of the problems that are happening, a lot of the crises, and then I'm going to hopefully talk a little bit about some of the solutions closer to the end. It's going to be a long video. This is going to be a hell of a slog, but let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we have to talk about is the number of crises that are going on right now, and there are a lot of them. 4 specific ones that I've actually jotted down, and a number of other ancillary crises that are happening because of these, and also in spite of them. And I'm going to go through them now. Okay, so right now, we are facing a medical crisis, an economic crisis, a climate crisis, and a social crisis. All of these crises are extremely detrimental. Every single one of them could really bring the fall of civilization as we know it. But they all happen to be happening at the exact same time. Now, let me go through a few of the things that are happening. So as far as the medical crisis is concerned, and these are mostly statistics and numbers that I'm going to be talking about from the United States. I'm not going to talk specifically about all of the numbers, but some of them. Right now, the United States is facing a medical crisis. They have reported that they have more deaths, I believe, or more cases of coronavirus than pretty much anywhere else in the entire world. That means more than China, more than Italy, more than every other place, and the problem continues to rise. The last I checked, there were over 65,000 sick. This was from a couple of days ago, and over 1,000 dead, and that's from yesterday. And obviously those numbers have risen exponentially since then. The death toll is rising, and any effect that many of these governments have, say in New York and other places, of trying to flatten the curve has been completely ineffectual. Their idea of quarantining, they're asking of people to self-isolate and that sort of thing, is not working properly, and people are continuing to spread this virus. From a lot of the numbers that I've seen, it's going to spread faster and further than anybody even expected, and a lot of the times the cases of this virus are doubling, and it's overwhelming the healthcare system, specifically in New York, where things are entering into just extremely scary territory. So as far as flattening the curve has been concerned, the United States just isn't doing a very good job of doing that. There are not enough medical supplies to go around. This is happening, you know, in part. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about why this is happening in a little while here, but I'm right now just going to lay out all of the problems. Hospitals can't keep up. There are not enough medical supplies to go around. There are not enough masks. There are not enough ventilators. There is just not enough protective equipment for a lot of the nurses or doctors to be using when it comes to actually treating these patients. So that's a major problem as well. Like I said a second ago, hospitals just can't keep up, and that's partly because of this radical inflation and this complete disregard of actually trying to flatten that curve. Like a lot of people were saying, and if you don't understand exactly what that means, basically the idea is that we try to have as few people actually contract the virus as possible at once, so it actually relieves a little bit of the healthcare system. It doesn't mean that the same amount of people aren't going to contract the virus. What it does mean is that fewer people are going going to end up not being able to get treatment for it because we won't overwhelm the healthcare system when we have a number of people all flooding into the hospitals all at once. So if fewer people contract the virus all at once, then that curve is flattened, it's more spread out, and the healthcare system is basically able to keep up. But right now, they are unable to keep up in a lot of different places. Hospitals may close because there's no profit motive. They happen to get most of their profits from something known as elective surgeries, surgeries that people don't necessarily need. And because people aren't doing that right now, they have to be focusing on the pandemic. They're not making enough money, so they're talking about closing. That's because the United States has a healthcare industry that isn't based on actually helping people, but based on profits. And if there's no profit to be made when people are dying and sick, there's no reason for the hospitals to continue to keep their doors open. Most Americans just aren't tested. They've been doing a lot of work to make sure that more people are tested more often, but they ended up getting to this problem so late that so many people aren't tested, and all of the numbers are getting blown completely out of proportion because a lot of people are seeing these numbers go and spike higher and higher and higher. Part of the reason why this is happening is because they just haven't done enough tests, and now that more tests are being done, more cases are being found, so that rate continues to get higher and higher. That's basically just math. That's how this works. But it does show that there is a complete lack of actual equipment and resources needed to make sure that these tests are being done and being done in a relatively quick speed. A lot of people, pretty much everybody in the United States now, can't afford health care, and with the rising income inequality and the rising unemployment rate, record unemployment rate, you're going to see even more of this happening even sooner when a lot of people that are losing their jobs are going to be unable to access the health care coverage that their jobs would usually provide. That's a major problem with having a healthcare industry or an insurance company that's provided through your employer, because as soon as you lose your employment, like in this kind of crisis, you lose your healthcare provider. Okay, so that's the medical crisis. That is a few of the things that are basically holding us up in the medical field, but we also have a bunch of other things going on as well. But to talk about that, I'm going to change locations, keep things a little bit interesting, so let's get to it. Okay, so we're in a slightly different location, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the economic crisis. Now, like I said a moment ago, I'm going to talk about all of the problems with it, all of the things that are going wrong, and after this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the solutions. And there are solutions, there are definite solutions, a lot of solutions that are being proposed that won't help, and a lot of solutions that aren't being proposed that will help a whole lot. So the economic crisis that we're currently going through, here are a number of the things that are happening. People are just completely unable to afford rent. With the massive layoffs that are happening, people are just not going to be able to go into work to be able to get their paychecks so they can afford to pay their rents. Not only rents, but this also includes mortgages, this includes bills, this includes basically everything that is bought by money. And unfortunately, since we live in a system where you have to have money to survive, all of a sudden when all of the money disappears, nobody has the resources needed to be able to get the things that will help them to survive. Now we're going to talk about the debt crisis. Now, a lot of people call this the everything bubble, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this everything bubble and how it's got us to where we are today. So right now, private debt is at $27 trillion. Corporate debt is at $10 trillion. The national debt in the United States is sitting at $25 trillion. Consumer debt is at $13 trillion. And the average American household debt, or the debt that is incurred by the average American, is around $137,000 each. Now, I've brought those numbers up in the past. Obviously, they've skyrocketed since the last time I've talked about them, but these numbers are basically what we call, in economic circles, the everything bubble. Everything has been so overinflated. Everybody is under so much debt that the amount of money that's actually in circulation doesn't really account for any of the amount of debt that actually is being incurred by all of these people at the moment. And because of that, it's creating this problem where if people can't do such a simple thing as pay their rent or pay for food or pay for bills, all of a sudden the entire stock market and the entire economy in and of itself starts getting really shaky and starts looking like it's going to fall apart and collapse, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. When you have a bubble that large, it's inevitable that eventually it is going to explode. That's what happens. And a lot of the time, whenever you have extremely high levels of market fluctuation, whenever you have an incredibly large amount of money going into the market, eventually, when that creates a large bubble, it is going to fall, and fall just as much, if not more, than how high it got to in the first place. We've seen this throughout history. We've seen this back in the crash of 2008. We've seen this in 2000. We've seen it all the way back in the 1920s and 30s when we had the Great Depression. This is a recurring cycle, and it's a problem inherent within capitalism. These kind of market fluctuations are normal, and its normalcy is not a good thing because this ends up putting massive numbers of people into an incredibly precarious situation or worse. And right now, we're facing unsurmounting numbers of problems within the economy itself. So all of these different people are under an incredible amount of debt, and it just so happens that we are possibly going to be looking at a 30% unemployment rate sometime within the next year or so. I've seen numbers saying that it could happen within the next quarter or so, and that's a fuck pile. That's an unimaginable amount of unemployment. During the Great Depression, we had roughly around 24% unemployment. 30% unemployment is outrageous. It's so much that it makes your head spin. During the height of the Great Recession back in 2008, we were losing something along the lines of, I believe it was 800,000 jobs per month. Within the last week, there has been 3.3 million people that filed for unemployment in a week, in 1 week. Those numbers, they don't even make sense in even the most number-minded person's brain. Those are so large, those numbers, that they're breaking records all across the board. And obviously they would be, because this is exactly what I was saying a moment ago. And it's something that I actually wanted to talk about even a year ago, but I ended up cutting that part out of my original video when I was talking about the economy, because I thought that it was a little bit too conspiratorial, or I thought that it was a little bit too spooky to tell a lot of people, because I didn't want to scare a lot of people at the time. But now, since we're standing in it, since we're literally living in it, we can actually see that yes, when you bring the economy up as high as it will possibly go, eventually when that market breaks, you're going to see it fall just as high, just as far, and just as fast, if not faster and further than it did when it was raising up. That's what happens whenever there's a market implosion. That's what happens whenever the stock market crashes in such a fundamentally, unbelievably large way. And that's what we're seeing as we speak. 3.3 million people file for unemployment in 1 week. Absolutely unbelievable. This also means that all non-essential businesses, thanks to the coronavirus, are shut down. So all of those people lost their jobs. All of these businesses are closing. And we don't really know when any of them are going to be opened back up again. A lot of people, some of the estimates are saying that you could have to stay in quarantine for something like 2 full months before we completely eliminate the possibility of this virus coming back and just destroying the entire economy again, or destroying lives all over again. And that means that even if they were to bail out the banks, bail out the big businesses, bail out everybody, like they've already tried to do and are continuing to do, that doesn't solve the problem of nobody actually pumping any money or anything into the market, because nobody's working and nobody can work. And if they do go to work, they could increase the risk of getting the virus and possibly making everybody else sick. So that's all of the economic crises, or at least a lot of them, that are happening as we speak. So we've talked about medical, we've talked about economic. We're going to do another scene change, and we're going to talk about the climate crisis. It looks like I finally got my wings. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the climate crisis. So we've talked about this many times in the past. I'm going to go through it quickly because it's something that we already all know about, but we have to talk about it considering it's one of the other problems that are facing people right now. So let's go through it. The climate crisis. There are just over 10 years left before we've reached a point of no return. There is every scientist across the board that is worth a shit is saying that we don't have much time to actually stop all of the production, to stop all of the exploitation, to stop it all so we can actually have a net negative amount of carbon emissions within society. And if we don't do that within the next 10 years, we could see massive problems all across the board. I have a car coming by, so hopefully they're going to have enough room to go by me, but I'm just going to move my tripod here a little bit, and hopefully they can make it past, and they can, so that's fantastic. Okay. A little loud. Okay, so like I was saying, we have 10 years left to make any kind of action whatsoever when it comes to climate change. And all of these things, all of these problems with the climate are starting to really show themselves in a lot of different ways. We have increased fires all across the entire world, increased floods all across the entire world. Extreme weather is a norm now. We constantly see a lot of records being broken almost every single day. At least monthly, we're seeing some kind of climate record being broken. The ice caps are melting at an extremely fast rate, and like a lot of people have been saying, when the ice caps are melting and when all of these things are happening, when the ice caps specifically are melting, you could end up with some virus that was trapped underneath the ice for 1,000 years coming out and fucking with all of us out of nowhere. When all of these fires are happening all across the Amazon and deforestation and that sort of thing, you can have a higher percentage chance of a lot of these diseases coming out of what seems like nowhere and spreading far, spreading fast, spreading across the entire world and taking people out. This happens because we are fucking with the environment, and because we have no kind of plan in place, and because we have a system that is based on making the most money every single quarter. We don't actually work on saving people from these problems. We don't actually work on coming up with a solution. We just continue to make higher quarterly profits. And again, here I go. I say we, it's not we, it's them. It's not us. You or I, as individuals, have very little say, very little power over anything that happens in the actual system. So it's not us, it's them. And we need to stop them from doing that as soon as possible. Okay, so there's a lot more logging going on. Fracking is continuing to persist. They aren't showing any sign of stopping that anytime soon. Certainly Joe Biden doesn't want to stop fracking, and Donald Trump isn't going to stop it at all. People are drilling more. Drill, baby, drill, even though right now we are facing a possible overabundance of oil in the market, considering it's being flooded in from places like Saudi Arabia and that sort of thing. A barrel of oil is now worth less than a barrel of monkeys. That's an actual statistical fact. A barrel of monkeys is $9.99, where a barrel of oil is $6.59 or something like that. So right now we are swimming in an overabundance of oil. So continuing to drill, continuing to pump, continuing to produce is an unreasonable thing to do, and it needs to be stopped almost entirely as soon as it possibly can. Obviously there are some things that are made with plastics and that sort of thing. We'll have to figure out an alternative. But if we don't do that right now, well, we're going to continue on the same trajectory that we're on at the moment. More pipelines are being produced and producing more unnecessary disposable goods. Like, we are producing, I was thinking about this the other day. What is the point of even making plastic pop bottles when you could already just be using the glass ones? What is the point of having all of this one-time, single-use bullshit when you can just have things that you can reuse over and over and over again? I know it sounds kind of gross, but everybody was going out and buying up all the fucking toilet paper, when really you can wipe your ass with a cloth, wash the thing, and you have toilet paper for the rest of your fucking life. So, and not to mention a bidet, a shower, wash your ass, I don't know. But these are things, all of these things coming together are all coalescing and creating this massive global catastrophic crisis that we're seeing with climate change. And now we're going to make another scene change and talk about the social crisis. Okay, so that was part one. Definitely tune in next time for part two.